Every so often, a piece of music gets released that I find so absolutely incredible that I can't stop talking about it. And I want to talk to everybody about it. I think the whole world should hear it because I feel as though it offers more than just being enjoyable music. Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name's Tank, and today we're going to be talking about what I think is the artistic genius behind Lorna Shore's Pain Remains Trilogy. Most anyone that's into metal by this point has at least heard Lorna Shore's name. They were founded in 2009 in Warren County, New Jersey, but it wasn't until just recently, in 2020, that they started getting a lot more recognition than they had previously gotten. Some people argue that the addition of their current vocalist, Ramos, is the catalyst to all of their recent success, and based on the timing of him joining the band and them blowing up, I get the argument, but I disagree. I've said many times now that I just think this is a perfect storm of people that were tailored to be in this band together, and now the band is just firing on all cylinders. Every single member of this band and people outside the band in their close inner circle, like their producer, Josh Schroeder, are huge contributors to their music, which is going to lead us right into the start of this video, discussing the artistic genius behind the Pain Remains trilogy and why it really should be appreciated more than just being a fantastic piece of music. So I'm just going to assume that everybody that's watching at this point of this video is at least familiar with Lorna Shore and their Pain Remains trilogy. If you're not, if you just happen to stumble across this and you're curious, go watch it now. It'll take you about 20 minutes to watch all three videos. I'll throw links to all of them in the description of this video, and I promise you, it's well worth your time. But in case anybody wants to just get going and get into it, let's do a quick recap. Lorna Shore's fourth studio album, Pain Remains, released on October 14th, 2022. It was one of the most highly anticipated album releases of the year for a big part of the metal community, and at this point, I'd say it's certainly delivered. The album was met with critical positive acclaim from tons of different music media outlets, and as of filming this video, it has now hit the top albums charts in multiple countries all over the world, including some of those being top 10s. Yes, a deathcore band has a top 10 album in multiple countries on this planet. And while there have been a handful of singles and music videos released, nothing has had the metal community talking more than the Pain Remains trilogy, which is essentially a 20-minute long song that has been split into 3 different tracks on the album that all feed into each other one after another. They're the last 3 tracks on the album. And along with these songs were music videos for each one that told a big story in an incredible fashion. For me personally, it's one of the most gut-wrenching, emotional pieces of art I've ever personally watched and listened to in my entire life, and I'm not the only one. There have been tons of reaction videos online with people sharing their emotions, most oftentimes choking up and crying, and thousands of people all over the internet have already shared how these videos and the songs have impacted them, often sharing their own personal struggles and battles with mental health. Now, it's no secret that deathcore is a very niche genre. Not everybody can get into this. Hell, not even every metalhead can get into deathcore. But for me personally, I just feel as though, regardless of its genre, the Pain Remains trilogy is a piece of music that should be celebrated way beyond the scope of just being good music. And I really want to try and get my point across in this video, and I'll do my best to explain my perspective on it, and maybe even give you a different perspective on it as well. Now, at face value, the Pain Remains trilogy can just come across as another epic metal piece loaded with awesome guitar riffs and pounding double bass, huge orchestral pieces, and some of the most brutal and versatile vocals you're going to get in the genre. But if you start to peel the layers back, you're going to see that this goes way beyond just being music. The emotion and storytelling in this trilogy is actually coming from multiple different perspectives. One is coming from the storytelling of vocalist Will Ramos. Another is coming from the songwriting of the band's principal songwriter and guitarist, Adam D'Amico. And another one coming from the music videos itself, or themselves rather, because there's 3 separate ones. And we're gonna break down each of those individually. So let's start with the perspective of vocalist Will Ramos. With the release of the Pain Remains album, he sat down with tons of different media outlets and explained his lyrical concept for this album, because it is a concept album that was inspired by some of his favorite animes and mangas. And that concept is set in a dream world that was created by somebody that hates their reality so much that they just want to find a way to escape. Now, talking about this album, Will said, "I wanted to write an adventure that starts with the first song and ends almost back at the beginning with the last song. A lot of deathcore albums are all about anger and fuck this, fuck that, very monotone. I wanted to do something that creates an emotion that maybe you haven't felt in a long time." And from start to finish, you get the story of someone who has gone to sleep to escape their reality, starts lucid dreaming, and experiences an entire world where they can create whatever they want to and basically be the god of everything. But that doesn't mean that everything's perfect. Eventually, the main character of this story gets frustrated with everything they've created, and in the music, we can start experiencing their emotions: sadness, frustration, rage, different stages of grief, which the music and the lyrics combine to capture those feelings perfectly. For the release of this album on Apple Music, Will actually sat down and did a synopsis of every single song in the album, telling the story and the viewpoint of the main character. But for the sake of this video, we're just gonna stick to the Pain Remains trilogy, and I'm gonna go through each one of those really quick. So for part 1, Will said, "I used to have dreams where I would have this fantastic relationship with somebody, and I can't even tell who this person is at all because that's how dreams are. Unfortunately, you can't make out a lot of things. Dreams are so vague. But in your mind, it makes sense. You're falling in love, and then you'll wake up from that dream and be like, shit, that never really happened at all. This sucks." In the story, the character has moments like this. They begin to love in their dreams, which returns meaning to their dream world, but they can't quite find solace. Then for part 2, Will says, he's beginning to realize that after everything, he's at the end of this whole world that he made. It's all a ghost in the breeze, like fading memories. He wants to disappear and to escape from this dream world. And then for part 3, Will said, this is the conclusion, but it's also the part where he is the most angry. He's at the bottom of the barrel and desperate. The world that he made, he's just gonna burn it all down and disappear. He's ready to go back to wherever it was that he came from. And it's the idea that God has left us and the world that he made. He's bored, he's sad, and nothing he's done has brought him any purpose. So he leaves the world and goes back to the reality he came from. The ending is a bittersweet tragedy. Now, this kind of concept in storytelling is not something that we see terribly much in deathcore. And if you follow along with the lyrics while you go through the entire album, you can see how creative Will's writing process was and how well he captured it all in his lyrics and writing, as well as with the delivery of his vocals. And let's be honest here, doesn't hurt that Will has insane vocal ability and he's essentially a Swiss Army knife when it comes to harsh vocal delivery, but as good as his story is, it wouldn't be the same without the music, which is going to bring us to our next perspective from guitarist Adam D'Amico. Out of every aspect of this trilogy, I think Adam's might be the most intriguing to me because he wasn't using his words or his voice to capture any of this. He was just using his guitar and his songwriting to specifically capture the emotions that he was having at the time of writing these songs. And with this trilogy, you can absolutely hear the emotion in the music. Sadness, frustration, rage, helplessness. These are all emotions that if you're listening, like really listening, you can hear all of it expressed just through the music alone. And there's a really big reason for that, because those were the exact feelings that Adam was having while he was writing this album.
Yeah, I was just really going through it doing this record, and it was definitely, for sure, like in the middle of doing these 3 songs. Like that was like the songs I was working on while I was like having this like crisis and this like meltdown and this sort of like, I got to the point where I was like, I'm flying home. Like I called management being like, I don't care if we don't finish this record. Like I got to go home, or like, I'm not going to be alive. So like, I'm out. And he was just like, what? And I was like, I got to go home. Like, I don't care if we have 4 songs written or recorded. Like, I don't care if like, whatever. I just like, the band can finish it, do whatever you want. Like, I'm out. I was like, I can't go through this. And it was just like, so much shit going on, from like the pressure of the record, being in the studio, like personal stuff, to just like all this stuff kind of going on last year. And like, kind of ironically enough, came out in these 3 songs, or I mean, came out the whole record, but like, that's what I was working on at that point in time. And it was just such a like rough moment for me. And like, I could not shake it. And I did my best to like contain it, but it was just really fucking hard. And, I'm just glad to be on the other side of it. But yeah, it was a very, very rough moment for me.
So as you can see with that podcast episode that Adam did with Finn McKenty, he's been very open about this, very open about his mental health, which I feel deserves nothing less than a standing ovation. Mental health is something that's often overlooked in our society, or often looked at as a weakness, which, let's be honest here, it's bullshit. That idea of weakness comes from this toxic masculine mindset that says, if you have these feelings or if you feel this way, you're weak. But the truth of the matter is that every single person on this planet, it doesn't matter who you are, they've gone through some period of being down. Now, obviously, that's a matter of perspective because everybody on this planet lives different lives, but you guys get what I mean. And Adam being able to take those feelings and emotions and channel it through this piece of art was probably not only helpful and cathartic for him, but it's helped a ton of other people. And we see that right now all over the internet while people are talking about this album. I feel as though Adam being so open about his feelings while writing this album has really started a dialogue in the metal community and started making people talk about mental health and maybe breaking down that stigma for a lot of metalheads that feel like they're not allowed to express their feelings and emotions, which is going to lead us right into the last perspective of this video, the music videos. The music videos for the Pain Remains trilogy were easily the most emotional I've ever gotten in my life watching music videos or even listening to music. And a lot of that was due to the fact that I, as a viewer, was able to really step into the shoes of the character on screen and associate some of my own experiences and emotions and all of that with what was going on. And for anybody that didn't see those reactions, it was a lot of emotion. The music videos were directed by David Brodsky and produced by Allison Wost, both of My Good Eye Music Visuals. Now, this is a team that has also done previous Lorna Shore videos and have also worked with bands like Gwar, Goat Horror, Crowbot, Clutch, Upon a Burning Body, Killswitch Engage. The list goes on. It's a ton of other bands. And along with them was a large supporting staff, as well as guitarist Adam D'Amico writing the entire screenplay, which actually gives us another perspective of his own music, which no doubt included a lot of those emotions that we discussed earlier. And while I cannot commend the entire video team enough for the work that they did on these videos, I feel like a lot of what made it what it was having actor Peter Welch in the lead role. Now, Peter's a New York City-based actor, screenwriter, director, and fine arts photographer. In fact, he's an award-winning photographer at that, and that's what he's most known for. But his acting in this video was just unreal. During the music video story of the trilogy, some of his facial expressions and mannerisms absolutely drive home the emotion of the song and make you feel exactly what he's showing on screen, which is, again, the feelings of pain, rage, hopelessness, and everything else that we've been talking about. And on a first watch, the story itself does seem pretty cut and dry. It's the story of a man who's lost his loved one, feels no reason to live, tries to end his life and fails, and after finally attending the funeral of that loved one, he goes back to their home and sets it ablaze with himself inside of it. But people's opinions online of this music video trilogy have been pretty interesting to see. Some people think that it's just Will's concept from the storytelling in the lyrics, and it was all a dream and it never really happened. And then there's other people that have the perception of it that The guy actually did die from suicide in part 2, and then part 3 with all the flames is actually him in hell. Then there's other people like myself that were able to really dive deep into it and just tie their own emotions and experiences to it and kind of come up with their own story based on the feelings. But whatever that correct answer may be, I feel as though it doesn't matter. And honestly, I don't know if I want to know the correct answer if there is one. Just like any other great piece of art, I feel as though it's best left to the interpretation of the viewer to take however they want to and take the parts of it that they feel work best for them. So we have 3 different creative perspectives of this Pain Remains trilogy. 4 if you count Adam Twice for writing the music and the screenplay. And all of these perspectives combine to make an incredible piece of art and storytelling that is not only emotional and enjoyable, but has given a lot of people something to relate to their own experiences. As I mentioned earlier, there are thousands of comments online from people sharing their own personal tragedies, emotions, and stories. And the most amazing and important thing about this trilogy to me is that it has given people the ability to be vulnerable and to share those emotions and stories with not only the band, but other listeners. The music video pages themselves are loaded with these comments and stories, but go to any YouTube reactors channel, find their reaction to any of the Pain Remains videos, and you'll see the same exact thing. It's an entire community of people getting together, dropping their walls, being vulnerable, and basically crying on each other's shoulders, which, considering how the internet can be, is amazing in and of itself. The lasting legacy of this entire trilogy, if not for the music itself, will be for how it has gotten hundreds and thousands of people in the metal community to start a dialogue about mental health and how it's okay to feel these feelings. You're never alone. There are tons of people in the world that have had the same thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and help will always be there if you're willing to reach out and ask for it. So if you happen to stumble across this video before seeing the Pain Remains trilogy, I hope maybe this gives you a different perspective when you do check it out, especially if deathcore isn't usually your preferred genre of music. And for those of you that have seen the trilogy already, I know there's a lot of people out there that share some of the views and opinions that I've expressed in this video. But if you're not one of those people, hopefully at the very least, maybe I've given you a different perspective and a different way to actually look at the music with these videos. I feel as though this trilogy is one of the most important releases in metal music that we've had in years, and it goes way beyond just the music, and I hope that I've displayed that in this video. And who knows, man, maybe because of these songs and these videos, mental health will be something that we continue to talk about in the metal community because it is something that should never be ignored. But thank you very much to everybody that took the time to watch this video and to get my take and what I think makes this a genius piece of art. And if you haven't listened to it already in its entirety, Pain Remains is out now everywhere. And I give you a personal guarantee it is absolutely worth your time for the listen from start to finish, even if metal isn't usually your preferred genre of music.